So I've just come off of teaching for maybe 5 days straight, and during that time I've shot a number of different videos, and I was also shooting all over the country prior to that, as well as teaching all over the country prior to that. So I want to make a video today. My goal was to make a video right after I came off a program to talk about the concept of spiritual renewal. And also, because this is tied into this, how it is to be somebody who's brimming with energy and somebody who has that it factor. Now, the place where this came up, it was funny, was because my CEO, we were talking about different speakers in the industry, and he said, Owen, you have this thing that most other speakers don't have. For whatever reason, whenever you make videos, you've consistently been able to turn out big crowds, turn out this core fan base of raving fans. There's just something about you. Some people have got it, some people don't. Some people are born with it, some people don't have it. And the people who don't have it, they could never get it. So if we ever were to go out and say hire new teachers or go out and learn from other people, we've just got to keep that in mind. You either got it or you don't. That's just how it is. And I think that what he said makes a lot of sense from the surface level social standpoint. It absolutely does. A lot of people that are, say, CEOs, CMO, chief executive officers, chief marketing officers, chief financial officers, people that are a little bit more logical, they see this whole thing of brimming with energy, and it just seems like this mystic voodoo. It doesn't really make any sense. How could you have that? I don't understand how you could have that. It doesn't make any sense. And what I'm here to tell you, like I've been saying, is no, that's wrong. Because as I'm sitting here, I'm just spent. I don't have a ton of energy. I don't have a ton of energy brimming off of me. I don't have a ton of charisma. I'm sitting here just exhausted. In fact, I specifically created the video right now because I feel exhausted. I want you to see it. I want you to see me completely spent, not a lot of energy coming off me. If you were to put me on stage right now at this exact moment, I would look like a tire without the rubber on it, in effect. I would just look like this kind of like, there's a word for this, it's impotent, right? You're not potent. There's not a potency there. So that actual potency, that potential of energy that's moving out of you is something that you build. And what I'm basically saying here is that it comes from spiritual renewal. Now, I'm sitting here in Sausalito. I'm right across the bay from San Francisco. It's this like cute little town. There's a boat up over here that you can see coming in. There's beautiful oceanfront restaurants. You can see this little thing coming in here. There's these cute little stores here. It's all very cute, so to speak. So as I'm sitting here, why do I come here the day right after an event? And I was actually in the Muirwood Forest, funny enough. The Muirwood Forest is like a smaller version of the Redwood Forest. There's also redwoods in the Muirwood Forest. I was there with my children. It was beautiful. What am I doing here, right? What am I doing here specifically? Am I here specifically because I built a business so that I can go to see Sausalito? I built a business so I can go to see the Muirwoods. Is that what I'm doing here? Am I sitting here like, now that I can come here, my life is so great. Is that what it is? No, it's not. I come here with a very specific intention. Really, I shouldn't even be working here right now and doing a video, but I want to do a video at this exact moment right after a crazy work week. I want to show this to you because I want to relate it to you. So this is the exact time that I'd planned to do it. I want to do it right now. I want to do it here in a place where I'm really meant to be taking a break and have been taking a break today and will after. So in effect, what it is that it's spiritual renewal. And what I've learned how to do is, in effect, get to be better at spiritual renewal. I've learned this, like I said, so that I could have that charisma. Why did I get that idea? Let me be blunt with you. Back in the day, I'm sitting here, I'm 40 right now as of recording this. Back in the day, I was 22, 23, and I want to get better social skills. I want to learn how to get better at dating. I was very, very bad with dating. Very, very awkward in my dating life, and even more so in my social life. Very, very awkward. And so the first thing that I tried to do is I tried to learn a bunch of different magic lines. I thought maybe if I learned a bunch of different magic lines, that would actually give me that charisma, right? I could sort of say these things. So I was sitting there with not really a lot of energy coming off me, kind of contained in my head. I don't really have a lot of power coming off of me at all. There's no energy beaming out. There's none of that it factor, that charisma. But maybe if I could have some line that I read from the internet, then that would be enough to hook people to want to get to know me or want to talk to me. So I started off my first 2 or 3 years just trying to basically figure out, the perfect line or perfect little gimmick that I could figure out so that people would like me. And then basically with very little charisma, not a lot of energy coming off of me, I would go to speak to people, and I would just try to say this like clever line or something like that. And what I found was I could hold the attention for a little bit, but it wasn't working long term. I began to shift in my thinking for 2 different reasons on this. One was because I started going to house parties. I was living in Los Angeles, and I started going to parties in the Hollywood Hills, like these after parties. And if I would go around talking to people and I had this magic line, everybody would hear me saying the same thing. And then I would see other people that just looked like they had charisma coming off of them. And I thought, that's so weird. How come those people have charisma coming off of them, but I don't? To be fair, some of them are probably on hard drugs. And to be fair, some of them probably were just like that since they're kids because they were raised in a different way. So I just want to learn how I could have it. And I think a lot of people, like I mentioned, whether it's a nerdy business person or whatever it is, they tend to accept that that's how life is. I didn't. I thought to myself, no, come on. There's got to be some way that I could become like that too. There has to be some way that I could have my own version. Maybe I'll never be as smooth as them. Maybe I'll always be a little awkward, but I got to be able to get better than this, surely. So I would start looking at people who just had a lot of charisma coming off them, and I figured out many different reasons why that is. Many. But one of those reasons, because I've covered them in other videos, but one of those reasons that I'm covering here with specific intent is this idea of spiritual renewal, okay? And so basically what I want to break down from here is this idea of what's called yin and yang. Yin is the taking in of energy and building up of energy. Yang is the explosion of energy. And I also want to be covering body awareness and the idea of opening yourself up to receive energy. So in effect, what we're going to be covering here is this idea of how to realize what is yin and yang, the out, okay, in, yin, yin, whatever you call it, and out, okay, body awareness and spiritual awareness of just, in effect, what's around you and how to let that in. So what we'll do right now is let's walk through, just walk through Sausalito. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And the basic idea behind it is that I want you to learn how to take in energy, take it in beautifully, and then I want to teach you also how once you've taken that in, to just shoot it out. And by the way, this is also going to be really, really crazy, not just in terms of charisma or being able to create attraction, but it's also going to be hugely beneficial as far as just being able to work a lot more hours. So this is going to be just a total difference for you. All right, now right off the bat, what you have to understand, this is Eastern philosophy. This isn't proven, I don't think. It's just a general philosophy that they have in the East, which is called the yin and the yang, or the yin and the yang, or whatever you want to call it, right? I'm not really the best with the pronunciation there. So the idea of it is that in life, there's always a taking in of energy and an explosion of energy. So let me give an example. You breathe in, right? I'd say that's the yin. You're building up that potential and out. Or let's say with sleeping, right? You go to sleep, and in sleeping you build up energy, and then in the daytime you explode out energy. Or another way would be like winter and summer as an example, right? So in the winter, everything's cold, there's not a bunch of life, but maybe there's a bunch of seeds that are preparing to blow out. And then the summer, it all comes to life and it explodes out. So it's a very beautiful thing. Some people who believe in reincarnation would even say that about life and death, that there's this ongoing cycle of life and death. And so it's this whole idea that you build up a bunch of energy and then boom, it goes out. And if you can get to be really, really good at this, it's incredibly powerful. And unfortunately, if you're not good at it, then you're kind of stuck. It's kind of funny how this works. So the shift in thinking that we have to make here is that for energy, we have things like food or sleep, but you don't think about spiritual renewal. That's something that is not really talked about. And because of that, you get a bunch of food, it renews you. You go get sleep, it renews you, but you don't think about spiritual renewal. Now, the way that this gets misunderstood in society, because it's pretty bad actually, is that most people, what they do is they work a job that they hate. The job itself doesn't spiritually renew them. They can't stand the job. And they do that for a long time until they hit a point where the weekend comes. And the weekend comes and they're completely miserable because all week they've been shut off from any kind of spiritual renewal. And then what they need to do is they need to go do something super duper extreme in order to be able to be spiritually renewed. Now this goes very, very deep, okay? Because then what happens is that to get renewed, what do most people do? They'll typically use drugs and alcohol. Now, the reason why they use drugs and alcohol is because the average person has not been taught how to be renewed. They don't know how to do it. Their actual systems for renewing themselves have been shut down, okay? Let me say this again. Their systems are shut down. It would almost be like if someone's a vegetarian and they couldn't digest meat anymore. So if you haven't been spiritually renewed in a long time, your systems are shut down. You can see this with people who you can tell they just don't have a lot of that spiritual energy inside of them. And then if you take them somewhere beautiful, they can't absorb it. It's like they want to vomit it. It's not something they can resonate with. It's not something they can absorb. It's kind of crazy. So now what you have is you're working a job that you hate and it has no larger purpose. I made a video just 2 days ago in the Bay in San Francisco talking about how the work that you do should be for some larger purpose, some higher purpose, and how it makes it where you can't be easily manipulated. It makes it where you're not going to get angry easily. It makes it where you're not going to get salty about things easily. And for somebody like myself, to be honest, the average person, because of this problem, they look very easy to throw off course. They look like their emotions are all over the place. They're not at the cause of their emotions. They're the effect of their emotions. It's really pathetic. The thing that I said in that video is that when nothing matters, everything matters. In other words, if there's no higher purpose to your life to center you and ground you, then any little problem that comes up is going to start to bother you, okay? So when there's no core great reason why you're living your life, then every little problem that comes up, it's just going to affect you. So I saw this when I was younger because I didn't understand how to receive. I didn't understand how to receive spiritually, in my spirit, my joy. I didn't know how to receive that. So I remember getting to a point where I was a kid and I'd be walking home and I would literally have no reason to live and I would just lie there in the snow for 7 or 8 hours just waiting to die. Sounds crazy, right? I'm walking down the street, I don't even know why I'm going to where I'm going, and I just run out of fuel. Funny how that works, right? Conversely, if there's something that you're moving towards, some beautiful outcome that you're moving towards, you have a lot of fuel, right? You have a reason to live. There's something that you're excited about, some outcome that's beautiful, that's amazing, you're excited. So you've got to be putting those in front of you. But you can't just put them in front of you, you've got to know how to receive. So here's what happens. Most people, what they do is they work this horrible job that they can't stand. And then that actually shuts them down. They don't want to take in any energy because frankly, they're kind of miserable. So it just shuts them down. And then on the weekend, because they can't receive spiritual energy anymore, then what happens? They got to drink alcohol. Now, why is that? Here's the key. What is the commonality that you see with alcohol and many different types of illicit drugs? It shuts down the logical mind. See, low vibration energy, dark energy attacks you through your thoughts. That's why when you're present to the moment or when you're, quote, in your body or grounded, you're going to tend to be a lot more positive. So consider that. Low vibration energy, it attacks you. It's always attacking your thoughts, right? If you're dancing, having fun, skiing, it's hard to get attacked by negative energy. You're not going to start getting super negative in most of those cases. You might, but you usually won't. It's attacking you through your thoughts. But for most people, they can't shut off their logical mind. They can't get present. So because they can't get present, they can't receive any good energy anymore. And then they literally have to poison themselves to shut their mind down in order to get present, in order to feel good, right? So if somebody does certain types of drugs, they might look around here and they go, whoa, it's beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful because finally their logical mind is shut down and they can see how beautiful it is. For a lot of people who use drugs, they're able to see how beautiful the world is for the first time. But for most people, they can't see it, they're shut down. Now they've got to poison themselves in order to let anything in. That high that you get when you take illicit drugs or alcohol, like say you see your friend and you're drunk and you're like, I love you. You should have that anyway. But it takes shutting your logical mind down for you to realize how much you love your friend and tell them that you love them. You know, when you're sitting there on mushrooms, looking at the clouds, how amazing it is, you should be able to do that anyway. but you need to shut down part of your brain with a poison, like mushrooms, like slightly poisonous, for you to be even able to see the clouds for how beautiful they are. So what we have to learn how to do to be able to receive is we have to learn how to get present to the moment and let things in. And what that means is that if I'm sitting here, right, I'm in this little art outlet in Sausalito, we asked for permission to shoot inside here and just thought we'd pop in. I've got to be able to come here and I've got to be able to look around. Just walk up to anything. I mean, I've been to some of these beautiful, there's pictures of Venice here. This is amazing. I don't know if this is from a real photo or not, but it's beautiful. And if you stand here, I've got to be able to look at this. And I want to be able to be almost moved to tears when I look at this. I want to look around and just, and when I say move to tears, what I mean by that, because see, when I'm younger, I thought I'm tough, right? I didn't cry till I was maybe like 26. I cried when I was a kid, and not for many more years till I was like 26. So when I say something like move to tears, obviously, like, you know, when I was a kid, I thought that's like you're a wimp. That's what I thought. But let me say something, this is pretty important what I'm gonna tell you. The world is God's creation, is so beautiful. Your experience here is so short. If you're at a point where you're honestly checked into reality and not trapped in a prison of too much logical thinking, if you're checked into reality, okay? You're checked into reality, when you look around you, that same thing that people would have when they're on mushrooms or when they're drunk, I love you. You see your friend, I love you. I love you so much. You look at the clouds, you know, you're high on shrooms, you know, something like that. Look at the clouds, it's beautiful. You've got to be able to go into your body and look around and see the beauty of what's going on around you. But see what society does. Society conditions us to where you walk into something like, you know, say you're in here. I just came in here because it's just a place with beautiful creations. These are man-made creations. I like to be in nature, see God's creations. These are man-made creations. But I've been here, I've been to Venice. I think that's probably a picture of Venice. And I want to look at this and I want to let it in. So part of this is that you've got to be able to let the energy in. Most people, they can't let it in. And so what happens is that because you can't let anything in, you're not present to the moment. You're always projecting to this future, like, look around you here. Nope, can't let it in. It's future. And then everybody's just pulling their phones out. They're just trying to get to the future because they're receiving nothing. They're receiving nothing. So they're just staring in their phones. Staring in their phones, staring in their phones. Dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. Nope, don't have to deal with my trauma energy. Just get out like that. They're not able to receive. They're not able to let it in. So part of it is being able to let in the beauty that's around you. And when you're always letting in that energy, that's renewing you spiritually. You don't need to go poison yourself or do something degenerative to harm yourself in order to feel good. You can see the beauty already. Thank you for letting me shoot here, by the way. Great. Thank you so much. So we'll pop back out here too. I think we appreciate the time we had here. So the idea being that you always want to be taking in. Now, this gets very, very interesting because something that I've mentioned before is that many of the most beautiful parts of our lives have been taken over by things that are dark. I've mentioned this before. Things like marriage that are so beautiful can be taken over by dark energy. Things like going to war for your country can be taken over by dark energy. I made a video about this in the Redwood Forest recently, talking about how many of the best things of us have been taken over with negativity. Something like a festival, I want you to think about this, something like a festival, places like, Ultra Music Festival I went to a long time ago, or places like EDC or Lightning in a Bottle, festivals like that. These are some of the most spiritually renewing events that you can go to. Everybody loves each other, hugs each other. There's music playing, it's beautiful, there's lights everywhere, they're incredible. But notice again how that thing that is meant to be so beautiful and amazing and renew you gets taken over by that dark energy of hardcore, very bad drugs. And that's where that negative energy, it just comes in and says, oh, this is the place where people are renewing themselves. Let's put all this dark, negative nonsense in there, get people to start cooking in their brains, making them into Swiss cheese. So notice again, it's another one of those patterns, something beautiful, but it winds up going sideways. So don't need to do things that are degenerative. You don't want to be doing things that are degenerative. See, what is it that we see about things that spiritually renew us? Number one, like I said, they keep us moving forward. They make us motivated and they keep us moving forward. That's one big part of it. They motivate us, they keep us moving forward. Another thing is that also they feed us with energy and then lets us move energy out. Well, how do we do that? It's typically going to be things where Let's see if we can shoot in here. Amen. Can I do my little video in here or no? It's up to you. Sure, we'll walk in here. So typically it's going to be things that allow you to get present to the moment, and they bring you into the now. So for a lot of people that could be things like music, right? What does music do? It brings you into the now. It makes you present as a movement. It can also be intimacy with a partner, where again you're being brought into the now. It could just be visiting some cute little city like this where you're like, okay, wait, I visited a cute little city, so now I'm gonna give myself permission to look around and have a little bit of fun, right? There's that element to it too. So what typically happens in society, look at what we do here. Either A, we are told when we're allowed to spiritually renew ourselves. Okay, when there's music on, you can receive. When you're in some cute little city, now you have permission to look at it. Not even on the drive there, even though the drive there could be equally beautiful. No, only when you get to the city that's the vacation city, then you have permission. Or even things like intimacy with a partner. I mean, think about that. You could be looking just at this, and you could be, I mean, this is getting into a weird zone, right? You know, but you could literally be touching that and feeling it and experiencing it, but of course that's weird, right? Even as I'm doing that, that's weird. Well, why is it that we have to wait for permission to say be intimate with a partner to then get into it? What is that? It's almost as though we are so bad collectively at allowing ourselves to receive. We're so bad at it. We're so incompetent at receiving that we have to chase around to meet somebody new, to go fool around with them in order to give ourselves permission to get out of our heads. It's like you're so trapped in your head. I've said this before to a lot of people. I'll say, is what you really want to be with somebody else? Is it that you have some need to be with somebody else? Or is it that you're just so trapped in your head and the only time that you can get out of your head is with the outlet of having somebody else to share that intimate experience with? And a lot of people have actually, what's up guys? A lot of people have just actually mentioned that to me. They've thought we'd do a little video on Sausalito. Good to meet you guys. Hey, what's up? What's up guys? Hey, pleasure to meet you. So a lot of people feel like they have to wait for permission, or they have to do something bad. I mean, how crazy is that? That's getting into a sketchy zone. They've got to go do something bad to give themselves permission to receive. So generally what you want to do is you want to be really, really good at taking things in. See, what happens is when you don't learn how to take it in, when you don't learn how to take in the beauty of life, you walk around again like there's no rubber on the tires. There's just nothing there. There's no rubber on the tires. You're just sitting there raw, and you kind of shut down your systems because society tells you, oh, you can't feel good right now. And it's really consumer culture. You need to buy something to feel good. You need to buy this from us in order to feel good. You need to go to this vacation in order to feel good. Stop. Don't. What you have to do instead is you have to train yourself to take it in wherever you are. If right now I'm gonna go drive back to Los Angeles after my event, I don't just look at, oh look, the Golden Gate Bridge is here. Now I can actually enjoy myself. No, see, that's a beautiful view. You wanna go up there? We'll go right up to that view. I've shot videos up there. I don't need to wait for that though. I'm sitting here, I can train myself, just like if I'm on crazy drugs, I could train myself to look around, to take things in, to see the beauty. I can see that just by going into my body. I can recharge myself like that. And the key here's the main key, okay? What most people do is they work a job that they hate, and then while working that job that they hate, they wait for the weekend, and they're oriented, their reason for existing is to have fun on the weekend or after work. What I've done, and I think would be something that would be worthwhile for you to think about, is instead I've said, I have a higher reason for doing what I'm doing. I have a reason I'm here. In my last video, I said I'm doing this for some higher reason. The video that I made in the bay here. And then what happens is that the recharging is in service of that. So my true joy is what I gain in giving, in my craft, in my reason for being here. That's the joy. And then what happens is that for me to come to Sausalito and take things in, that's giving fuel towards that joy. In my opinion, here's what happens. When you're doing something you hate and living for the weekend, you're easily manipulable because when there's no larger reason what you're doing, so when everything matters, nothing matters, right? When nothing matters, everything matters, right? When nothing matters, everything matters. There's no larger reason you're doing it. So, if you got a parking ticket, I'm so angry. Someone was rude to you, I'm so angry. You see that? So then it makes you, there's no center there, there's no core. You're not grounded. But when there's a reason that you're doing what you're doing, you're grounded. And then what happens is that receiving fuels you up for the explosion, okay? Receiving fuels you up for the explosion. And so what happens is that yin and the yang, and it feels good. So see, for me, my fun is to do what I love. But what I love, notice, it's the giving, it's that explosion. It's me at my best. But what happens again is that then on the off days, that's the yang days. When I'm sitting there at the spa, most people are like, oh, you got to go to the spa? That's so good. I say, no, you know what's so good? Me engaging with my craft. Because when I give and I engage with my craft, that feeds me. But at the same time, there's a balance, because what happens is that while I'm being fed spiritually, physically I'm being drained, right? It's like if you have a baby. The baby's so beautiful, it feeds you spiritually being with your baby. But if you got to carry it around and deal with it, it also depletes you physically. So what I do is I go out, I get physically replenished by taking a break. I take in nice energy all the time so that I'm always pulling in energy, pulling in energy, pulling in energy. And then what that's doing is it's giving me a reason to live. It's giving me something to move towards. I'm moving towards beauty and love for my life, which motivates me. So as I'm speaking right now, I feel like I'm moving towards something, which gives me added power. And then what happens, I'm always receiving. So I'm pulling in, out, pulling in, out, pulling in, out. And learning to do this, it is so, so important. So I'm heading back into San Francisco, and I thought, instead of doing the video where I would normally do at the end of the night at the Golden Gate Bridge, why don't we come to the seedy neighborhood? Because we're talking about those kind of topics. So what I want to do to wrap up is get you to be able to see somebody and see the way that the energy is flowing. And I want you to be able to look at them and be like, oh, okay, their energy is flowing like this. I want you to be able to see clearly if they're able to replenish themselves or if they are spiritually starving. And what you'll see, it's sort of a weird thing, but basically what it is, what you've got to look for is, are they able to get present to the moment? Do they have an inflow to where they're able to receive beauty and fulfillment? And here's another one. This is kind of funny, but in many ways, your energy system is a lot like a cup. And if the cup is filled with low vibration, negative energy, dense energy, heavy energy, there's not a lot of space to fill it up with positive energy. And if that's the case, if you're filled with trauma, then you need something really potent and kind of shocking in order to be able to feel anything. And that's not ideal at all. So if you look here, you know, the kind of seedy neighborhood, why is it that people would need to come to a place like this? Well, I gotta be honest, I've seen this with exes of mine, people I've been in relationships with. A lot of times people that are very beautiful, externally very beautiful, even internally beautiful, but have some issues. So I can remember one of my exes, amazing person, but the challenge was there was a dependence on alcohol. There was a clear dependence on alcohol. And I remember meeting up with them and just seeing how happy they looked drunk. I'm looking at them and I'm like, you're just so happy drunk. And I realized that there was no way in their regular life to be happy without alcohol. It had become who this person was. I could see it. I saw it with another ex too, where there's just so much trauma there, they're not able to let anything positive. So I remember another ex I had, I would see them kind of just sitting there, just kind of looking stupefied all the time and unable to be happy. We'd go to these beautiful places and they'd be unable to take in any good feelings. I could see it. But then when they're drunk, they'd have the best time ever. So it actually came to a point where it became who they were. Why is that? Again, there's trauma energy going on. You got a lot of heavy trauma. So the cup is full, right? You've got to empty out the trauma to be able to pull in a lot of high vibration, good spiritual energy. But the cup is full. So they need something very, very dense and very heavy and very dark and messed up in order to be able to feel anything at all. So you can also see this sometimes in wealthy countries where people are very trapped in their head and too logical, versus ironically in some poor countries. Sometimes you'll go to a poor village and you'll see people just dancing and having fun. They're going crazy. They're loose. They can dance. They can smile. They have these giant, joyful smiles that you'd rarely see in a first world country. Now, I'm not saying to go move to an impoverished country, but it's amazing how first world countries, there's a tendency to be very, very logical and very, very stuck in your head. And for that reason, you're always stuck in your head. You've blocked off being present to the moment because you're trapped in your head, and then there's not an inflow of that beautiful, positive, present energy. So because of this, again, there's a huge reliance on vices. What I found was that I trained myself to get present and see the beauty around me and let it in and let it recharge me. And so what happens is that when I'm moving or taking action, the more that I'm moving, the more I'm getting out of my head. What I'm doing is I'm taking so much action, it overwhelms the thinking mind. So as I'm doing that, I'm getting more out of my head, I'm getting more present, I'm feeling good, and then as I'm doing that, I start getting energized. So the more movement that I'm taking, if I just start moving and taking action, I'll start to feel my cup getting full because I'm getting present. And what I do is I shift my awareness into the motion. Sometimes in spiritual teaching, they'll say, look at your hands, take a deep breath, connect to the breath, look at what's around you, feel into your body. And what starts to happen, you start to feel so good, you start to feel so refreshed that you could be sitting anywhere. You could be looking at a garbage can and you start to feel good because you're getting out of your head. So again, people who are too logical, that are too trapped in their head, they often get trapped in drugs, in alcohol as a way to spiritually recharge. But here's the main issue. You have physical replenishment and you have spiritual replenishment. And these are two different things. And each of these are actually different. Let me give an example. If I go do work super hard, say I'm public speaking, eventually what's going to happen is I'm going to be spiritually refreshed because I'm giving. But physically, my body's going bang, bang, bang. And because of that, what's going to wind up happening is that I'm getting physically depleted. Okay? You see that? So an example would be, let's say someone drinks a chocolate milkshake. The chocolate milkshake actually gets you very present. It has a strong, happy taste. It's like, as soon as you taste it, you're like, this feels good. But it's also inflaming your body. You see that? It's making your body get inflamed. So it's actually taking you back physically, but moving you forward in refilling your spiritual cup. Now, sometimes when you're just hurting, you just need to go eat a milkshake. Like, that's just straight up what you need in life. That's just honestly what's happening. So that's where sometimes people just say, I just need a drink. Even if it's going to make them hungover, they're so sad in their lives in a particular moment, they're so unhappy, that even if it messes them up physically, they just need a drink. So the physical goes down, but spiritually goes up. Ideally, what you want to do, this is your ideal spot, is you want to get to a point where you're doing things that physically are replenishing you and spiritually are replenishing you. And this is where that other aspect that I talked about comes in. It's called active recovery. Well, what does active recovery mean? Active recovery is where you do things that are fun, but you're lowering your body's what's called systemic inflammation. So as an example, let's say you go to Russian banya. It's beautiful. It's like super duper hot. And you jump in a super cold plunge. Takes down inflammation like crazy, but also feels good because it actually gets you out of your head. The nice heat, even though it can be a little bit strong, it gets you out of your head. It's like it takes you in the moment. The cold plunge takes you in the moment. It takes you out of your head, but it also lowers inflammation. You see that? So active recovery is also something that most people, they have no idea what that is. They are so clueless on active recovery. I've mentioned that I haven't been sick since 2012. And I'm not gonna get sick. It's chilly out here, I'm not gonna get sick from it. I'm not gonna get sick this week, even though I only slept like 4 hours a night to do my event. Nothing's gonna make me sick, and I'm not gonna get burnt out. The reason why that is because I understand how to take down my systemic inflammation. I mean, look at me right now. I'm coming off of 4 hours a night of sleep, 15-hour work days. I'm chilling. I had a half day at Sausalito, and I'm ready to go. What's going on? I know how to quickly take down my systemic inflammation. I know how to do it like clockwork because I understand what active recovery is. I can feel the tension in my body, know how to release it, and I also know how to refill myself spiritually. So notice, even from the beginning of the video till now, I was more tired earlier, but this isn't really that hard of work. I mean, I'm just walking around giving my opinions on things. Could argue it's fun. So from that standpoint, I'm pulling in energy, and then I'm also not doing anything taxing myself too much, right? I understand what's going on. So to finish, I'll tell you how I learned to dig even a little bit deeper, because at a certain point, I had to learn to dig deeper. So in my work in recent years, there's been a lot of headwinds. I mentioned that in the video that I shot in the Bay. Crazy headwinds. And some of those headwinds were to the point that because I have this mission that I want to help people with very specific areas. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people whose mission is to not allow people to get help. And I mean, this is a matter of public record. So you can look that up. So basically, for me to be able to accomplish my larger goal was insane. It was so crazy. And the headwinds were so intense. And it got to the point where I basically knew that I probably wouldn't be able to take a day off for a year or two. I knew that. I was like, am I going to continue or am I not? I just had to be realistic with it. There's just so many headwinds. And funny enough, if I could just lock in and get focused and manage my energy system, I knew that I could keep going and basically be unstoppable. Although there is a point where anybody can be stopped. But you know my point. Pretty much, I could exert my will into a situation. And I could exert my will and take the joy and pride of seeing that dream come to fruition. I've begun to really see that. It's been so crazy. And what I've learned along the way is so insane. I'm so excited to share all of it. Everything that I've learned, I want to share. So doing that, basically what I had to get really good at two things. One was active recovery. I had to get it where if I had 3 hours off, bang, I can get recharged. But also, from there, I had to get it where I could take joy even in the simplest of situations. So I had to change my mind that as I'm walking around here, just looking around at silly little things like my cameraman almost went down, or anything just like hearing the funny voices, just looking at this, looking at my hands, looking at the lights in there, looking at a parking meter, breathing, feeling good, feeling the energy in my body, my hands, looking at it. I had to get good at taking joy without waiting for society's permission. Rather than saying, oh, I've got to work hard and this is miserable, and then I get joy at the end. No, I've had to retrain my mind to take in energy, to take it in. And in taking in that energy, again, remember we talked about how in, say, a poorer country, therefore they can have this big, huge smile. They have a big smile. You wouldn't see as much in a first world country because people are too logical. I had to learn to tap into that, right? Somebody who's living in a poor country, they're not waiting to be happy. They're not waiting because there's nothing to wait for, by a way of looking at it. Don't take that the wrong way. So in the positive way, rather than waiting, they're just going to start enjoying life now with the little things, the big laughing, the movement, the joy, the joking. And so what I do is whenever I'm working, I just start cracking jokes with whatever I'm doing. I don't wait to start having fun. I'm cracking jokes and just making everything entertaining, making it fun, making it beautiful, no matter what it is that I'm doing. If I'm sitting out here, I'm going to have a great time no matter what I'm doing. Am I like that perfectly? I wouldn't say that I'm at a point where I'm at that perfectly. No, I'm not at that point yet, but I've gotten better over time. So that's the message that I want to leave you with, is that if you want to dig deeper, you've got to get better at active recovery. We'll make other videos about that. What is active recovery? I see people who are like, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to go take a vacation. They go take a vacation, you're in an airplane, which runs you down. Then they go drink a bunch of alcohol, don't sleep that much, which runs them down. They come back, they're more depleted than when they left. Or they come to some crazy place, get drunk, or go mess around with some, person here they shouldn't be messing around with. And, I'm paying for it, so to speak. And they're not getting spiritually fulfilled. It's actually taking them down a peg. And by the way, when you're in that weird zone where you're carrying a lot of trauma and you can't receive, like you're in this kind of dead to life mode, and then you need something to receive, it's just very, very bad. And so really the goal is to change that. It's to basically make you aware of how to do active recovery. It's to make you aware of how to spiritually fulfill yourself, which again comes from, you have to open it up. Open up your awareness. Don't just live in this dead to life zone waiting for the time when you're allowed to be happy. Be happy now. Bring it in. Feel it. Feel that big joy. And the end result of this, which is so crazy, is that, as an example, we talked about getting better at dating. You'll be so much better at dating. You'll be so much more effective in your work. You'll be so much more effective at everything. In effect, you're running laps around people because you're not contained in this cage of the mind and of the spirit like most people. You're also able to recharge yourself. You're able to bring down inflammation, do active recovery. You have body awareness. See, we're not taught body awareness. We're not taught spiritual awareness. We're not taught when our body's depleted, then we just get sick and take some creepy pill that makes us even more sick in the long run. We're not taught that. We're not taught body awareness. We're not taught spiritual awareness. We're not taught when we're depleted. And then we don't, what's up, guys? And then we don't know how to bring it back. So that's what you got to learn. Me back in the day, growing up, and I'll end with this, I was so spiritually depleted, I would just feel like just laying on the ground and dying. So when I'd finally get a significant other, if they dumped me, my heart was empty because I was beginning to build up some good experiences with my significant other. They dumped me and my heart was emptied out. Or I'd start to build up a couple good experiences with some friends that I could think about, fill my heart up. And then if they would betray me, it would be emptied out. And it made me into a codependent. It made me desperate, it made me needy. If I had a great night out with someone who I'm attracted to, who I just met, and then they didn't want to go all the way with me, I'd be crushed because my heart was emptied out. That makes you a slave. No. Instead, you've got to learn the art of taking in energy from everywhere. And remember, in any social interaction, there's one person reacting more to the other person than that person's reacting to them. So what happens is that you're the person who has more of the good emotions. The good emotions are with you. And they see that and that you have more good emotions than they do, and they want to be part of it. Makes you a great public speaker, makes you great at sales, makes you a hard worker, makes you better at meeting new people. Notice how I can recharge myself from the speaking. I'm gaining energy from the speaking because I'm giving, and really what I'm doing here is not all that hard. So there's your main key. Just taking in the crap show of the world, the all singing, all dancing crap of the world, as Tyler Durden would say, taking in the joy, building it up, opening those channels, getting loose, getting real joy, letting yourself be fulfilled, and not being dependent and waiting and being left in pain. That's my goal for you. So this is a video that I'm gonna at some point reshoot from a different state, and I'm gonna lay it out in more detail, but I just wanna start to get you aware of this. I wanna get you operating at your peak level. I wanna get it to where you're strong and not dependent, and I wanna get it to where you are the master of whatever goal you want, because you're not waiting for some consumer culture to sell you back your joy. I think that this should be pretty clear at this point, and I'm gonna wrap up, and I'm actually gonna shoot back into Los Angeles. So, thanks for being with me on my day off that I had planned for you. And I'll talk to you soon. Peace.